Into every generation, podcasters are born. Two guys in all the world, chosen ones. They alone will wield the strength and skill to discuss the vampires, demons, and the forces of darkness, to lament the spread of their evil and the swell of their number. This is the Untitled Buffy Project.
In the 18th episode of Season 4, Buffy and Riley get hot and heavy, and that's pretty much all they do. And Mrs. Landingham is not at all happy about it. This episode was written by Tracy Forbes and directed by David Solomon.
We would like to dedicate this episode to the actress Catherine Houston, who appeared in this episode and who recently passed away, actually just a little over a month ago on June 2nd.
June 2nd, yeah, she was 72 years old. She died of lung cancer, and she is one of those character actresses that just shows up. She lobs bombs. You know, she shows up in an episode of your favorite show, and you're like, oh, who's this person? And just knocks the performance out of the
And
park.
she's given a hugely important emotional character to play, and it works every time.
For instance, in this episode, you need Catherine Houston to play the caring yet fanatical Christian fundamentalist. You need someone like her with her acting chops to distill that down into something so you can just do it in 3 minutes. You don't have time to explain all of her motivations and whatever. You need someone who can just tell you that with her voice and her face and her acting, and she did that. Sean and I are big fans of The West Wing, and Dolores Landingham, the character that Catherine Houston played in The West Wing, she is just one of my all-time favorite characters of any television show ever. She's great.
Her interactions with Martin Sheen makes it clear that they are actors of the same caliber. They're just so good together.
This is going to turn into a West Wing.
All of a sudden, we're talking about The West Wing.
The only thing I'll say is that about The West Wing is that Jed Bartlett talking to his memory of Dolores Landingham in the season 2 finale, Two Cathedrals, is just some of my favorite television that's ever been produced.
Two Cathedrals is an amazing episode.
You should all watch that. I don't think it's available on Netflix.
No.
We are
So anyway, what's the show?
We are going to talk about a much inferior show, but we still like it, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We're going to talk about Where the Wild Things Are. But anyway, we love Catherine Houston, and
Thanks for being in the show.
yeah, and thanks for making television awesome.
So anyway, sexy times, right?
The previously on for this episode was all about relationships. It was like Buffy and Riley, Tara and Willow, Anya and Xander, and I'm like, we're gonna get
As
down.
usual, no love for Giles.
Did he have a love interest in this?
He has. She just never shows up.
That is a shame.
I know,
because
poor
he's
guy.
because he's an attractive man.
And even more attractive after this episode, I think.
We'll get there. Giles is my favorite character. Xander drives an ice cream truck.
Xander is driving an ice cream truck. I love this.
He just does everything.
This might be my favorite. I completely forgot this was one of his random jobs. This is probably my favorite.
He's driving an ice cream truck.
And as usual, he's no good at it. He's not good at all.
I mean, we've talked about this before. Xander can't. He just has a awful professional life. He just can't have a good job, a real job. And I almost think if you're trying to think of what would be the most ridiculous way to make a joke of Xander not being able to hold down a job, you'd be like, and now he's driving an ice cream truck.
Give him an ice cream truck.
But he actually has an ice cream truck. Did you notice that the song that the ice cream truck plays is in a minor? It
sounds
minor,
detuned.
It sounds creepy. And also, for some reason, a lot of people line up for him because he has this awkward thing where he's like, "Let's have hot, big, sweaty sex." To Anya, because Anya feels like they're growing, sexually distant or something, and then he says that, and then the camera pans, and it's
like a dad and 7 little kids.
Yeah, exactly. So the only mention of Adam in this episode is probably the most important, like, larger arc plot. This episode is, I mentioned this in our last episode, this is the most, like, Buffy of the Week episode that this season has done, and it happens to be really good. None of the plot of this episode is important for I can't imagine that any of the rest of the plot of this episode is important for anything other than the one thing we learn about Adam, and that Giles and the crew thinks is sort of bringing demons and vampires together.
Right. And
collaborating.
We know that historically this is something that does not and probably shouldn't happen.
Right, because in the mythology of Buffy, vampires exist because of demons kind of commingling with humans, and that's what kind of like made vampires. So, you know, demons kind of like look down their nose at vampires like, ew.
They're not pure. They're half-bloods.
They're mudbloods.
Mudbloods.
And vampires, you know, are like, oh, you demons, you think you're so great, but we're awesome too. Remember the Master? He was cool.
Right.
Even though he, like, you know, died.
Well, he was cool until that.
Until he, you know, fell through the glass and got a thing through his thing.
Thing through his
Not
thing.
very good at, thing through his thing. I'm not very good at explaining things. So Buffy and Riley just cannot keep their hands off of each other. What is going on?
Yeah, we talked earlier about how Buffy was pretty inexperienced sexually, and it seemed like Riley was the same way. So I think we've reached the part in their relationship where it's like they finally decided to really go wild, and that's all they can do.
We said the words sexually repressed regarding those two characters, and now they're just
they're unlocking their chakras.
Yeah. So
we knew we were going to have to find inventive ways to talk about this.
We talked about we mentioned this before we started recording. This episode is kind of like a slow burn. Like, you know something's up, and it very, very slowly builds. So, like, the house is cold for some reason. So Buffy and Riley are, you know, in the throes of passion for, like, the 19th time, and in the initiative guide, they're at the initiative frat house, and the initiative guys are like, oh, it's Buffy and Riley, they're at it again. And they're like, yeah, the house is, like, freezing. Why is the house
freezing?
Freezing, like, things are freezing. And they're, like, stoking a fire. And the furnace is broken or something. I don't know. They sort of papered over that. And they're like, we're stoking a fire, we're trying to make it hot. And it seems like when one of our two main characters climaxes, that the fireplace, like, literally explodes fire out.
So something is going on.
Right, like, what is this is one of those, this is the point. There are some episodes of Buffy where I go, what is happening? And it's bad. But that was not this. I was like, what is happening? I don't know. Like, they're going somewhere with this, and it seems like they had an idea, like, we're gonna go somewhere with this.
They wanted to make an episode, like you said, not much happens for the total arc. I think they wanted to make an episode expressing all these different relationship things, and
right.
They found ways to do it, and they were like, well, we'll just mostly ignore the season plot and focus on advancing all these relationships.
You also get the sense that we're getting close to the big finale, and you kind of need to take a break, right, before you get there. You can't just go straight from, there's Adam, and he's doing stuff with vampires, and it's a big thing, and you kind of need to, like, okay, let's just, like, cool off for, like, a little bit.
Last week we did the goofy superstar episode, and this week we have a burn of an episode that is just characters.
Right. So this is all, exactly. This is all characters. You know, there's the Anya and Xander relationship, which is totally strained. Although I'm not entirely sure why. I mean, maybe you can, like...
I feel like Anya doesn't know how to be in a relationship.
Maybe that's it.
She just doesn't understand how it is supposed to work.
But they seem like they've been doing so well before. I didn't understand why things got so bad so quickly.
I don't know.
Like, they didn't have sex one night, and she was like, "Are we breaking up?" I didn't.
Does that mean they've been having sex every night since they started dating?
Xander says at the beginning of the episode, it's like, "We've not had sex before," and she says, "Yes, twice."
Xander is a stud.
Well, yeah, go Xander. So immediately they ratchet up their relationship problems to like 11, and they go to the frat party at the Initiative where Buffy and Riley go away and start having sex some more. It's just like sex. This episode is really and it's not everybody having sex. It's Riley and Buffy having sex throughout this entire episode. I think that if you counted up the minutes and seconds that Riley and Buffy are on screen, that there would be more of them in bed than not in bed.
This must have been a really awkward shoot.
Yeah. So they're at this frat party at the Initiative house that Riley is like, "We're gonna do this because my crew is all, How did I miss where he got like really super connected back with the Initiative again, by the way?
I guess I did too.
Like, why is he so...
They're tight again. He's not on the pills or whatever. But
right, he's like, "I'm not eating the food, but I'm back with the So they're at this like quasi frat party. Anya has had a conversation with Spike about how they both have lost powers. She used to be a vengeance demon, now she's not, and he used to be a vampire, and now he can't really suck blood, and oh hey, there's some connection or relationship between us. They show up at the party. Xander's there, everybody's there, Willow's there, Tara's there, everybody's there. And it's weird, man. This is the
really weird.
There are college kids playing Spin the Bottle. What? Nobody does that. Nobody does that. That's just weird.
It would be beer pong at the least.
Did you ever play Spin? I don't mean in college. Have you ever played
I have never played Spin the Bottle one time.
Neither have I. And I like in college?
Well,
are you out of your mind?
Maybe based on what is going on, maybe it's the house. Because how long ago was the curse set? Maybe they're enacting things that would have been taking place in the house when what's-her-face was Genevieve was in charge of it.
Fine.
It's just a theory I'm working with.
You have doused water on my rage.
I've given it justification, although
Fine.
If they think that college kids are playing Spin the Bottle, they are ridiculous.
And also, never having played Spin the Bottle, but being a human being on planet Earth, what group of people would let a random person like Xander join a Spin the Bottle game?
Yeah, we want to kiss another guy.
Who no one knows. We have no prior relationship with. Julie knew him because he was flirting with her. And by the way, Xander, flirting, being a cheat and
Look at him go.
Yeah. Whatever, it's the strained relationship with him and Anya, but like what group of people, on what planet would a group of friends allow a random person take part of basically a sexual game? That's crazy. So, Sean, you're right, you bring up that the house is like doing stuff. At this point, we're pretty sure like something's going on with the house.
We got like a haunted house situation here. Again, another frat house that has been cursed with something.
Sunnydale, man, I'm telling you, it's crazy. They should have zoning for the ghost houses. And like Willow sees what looks like a dead body in the bathtub, and it's like, yeah, it's ghosts or something. And this eventually leads to one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in Buffy, ever. And it's this guy. We don't know who he is. I don't think he ever shows up again. Well, I haven't seen past this episode, so, maybe he does. He's talking with a girl, and he's like, "Hey, French is a really cool language. You ever think about the taste of words like voiture?" Or I don't know. And then he like kind of casually puts his hand up, like to like I'm gonna touch the wall. I'm gonna like rest my arm against the wall now. And then he like was like whoa, and you're like wait what's happening now? And the girl.
If you've ever seen Office Space, that guy with the O face, basically that's what starts happening.
Yeah, he's like something's happening. The girl's like, are you okay? Something happening? He's like, yeah, no, I'm. Oh. And you're like, oh my god, this guy is getting like, this guy's getting a wall job. This guy is getting sexually pleasured by the wall.
By touching the wall with his hand.
Like, what? What? And later in
so
the
that's
episode,
when you're yelling, what is happening?
what is happening?
But the good kind of what is happening.
Yeah, the good kind. And later in the episode, and I thought this was also weird. Who wrote this episode? Tracy Forbes. This is not what normal people do. This was bad writing. He was like finding his friends and being like, hey dude, touch the wall. Like, who wants to see your friend like
You know what the wall just did to you. Why would you want to see some other random dude experience that too?
Right, exactly. We're getting in weird territory for this episode, for what we've been doing for the past 18 episodes, but this guy is watching his friend have an orgasm.
And he didn't even get a camera.
That's weird. That's weird. No one wants to do that. That's awkward, especially around dudes. I'm not a girl, so I can't. It's weird generally. No one wants to see that. That was weird. Maybe it's the house. I don't know. So we've kind of come to a climax of I don't understand what's happening. We kind of need to figure out what's happening.
We need an exposition character.
Yes, we need, like, please, someone help us understand what's happening. And they're like, let's go to Giles. Giles understands things. He can help. And he has previously said, like, oh, I'm not going to be around. They invited him to the party, too, which I thought was weird.
Well, I guess they just wanted to be nice.
I mean, he was like, oh, no, I can't. I'm going to be at the espresso pump doing grown-up things. I think he says that. Grown-up things or grown-up stuff.
Yeah, I think he does say grown-up things.
So it's obviously Riley and Buffy are indisposed. So Anya, Tara, Willow, and Xander go to this coffee place to try and find Giles.
Which, by the way, is the cover image for this episode on Wikipedia, and it will live in infamy.
Oh, that's right. It is. I've got that open right here. Giles is my favorite character. I have made that clear. He's playing the guitar at a coffee place, and he is singing...
Behind Blue Eyes.
Behind Blue Eyes.
By The Who.
The Who, yeah. And he's actually kind of...
And he's singing it like
singing it.
The slow rock version. Like, this is a super toned down and, like, sincere, genuine, heartfelt lyric.
It's the acoustic.
You don't know what it's like to be the sad man.
Behind Blue Eyes.
Oh my god. And the shot of the reaction shot of the crew is just brilliant. I'm just dumbfounded.
I will say, I looked online for kind of more than a minute or two to see if I could find a GIF meme of Giles noticing the crew and the face he makes, and then going back to his guitar, because he's like, no one knows what it's like to be the bad, and he sees a man, and then he goes, me a sad man, and he's like, it's just brilliant. I'm like, oh my goodness, that was awesome. I love Giles so much. I just want to so he's like, yeah, it's like a haunted house or something. We should like, let's study this. And they're like, oh, it was not always a frat house. It was like what was it?
It was a
troubled
children's home.
Yes, and it was run by one Genevieve Holt, and they were like oh, she's still alive. Let's go find her. And then we get Mrs.
Like,
Landingham.
hello, was your house ever haunted?
And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I had these kids. I can't help when I'm talking about her to talk like her.
Right?
She has this cadence, you know? Like this like zip to the way she speaks. Basically she's a Christian fundamentalist, and she totally sexually repressed these kids. I mean, they were adolescents, 16-year-olds. They kind of have sexual feelings. And she was like, oh, you have sexual feelings. I am going to hold you in a bathtub until, you don't have those anymore, or cut your hair off. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, she's a little crazy.
She's totally crazy. And Giles totally puts her in her place. It's one of those... This is not a political or whatever kind of podcast this is, but he is the voice of, no, I understand that you have these religious, like for any religion or for any feeling, I understand that you think this way, but you ruined these people's lives, and it has come back to haunt, literally in this case, this has come back to haunt other people, and you should feel ashamed. And he gives the shame on you that you feel that, you feel, in your belly, like, no, shame on you. I don't care what you think. You ruin people's lives. I loved that.
Yeah.
That was like the other Giles is my favorite character moment. Like, he was very earnest and sincere. Like, no, really, shame on you. Don't do that. You shouldn't have done that. You should feel ashamed. And then he's like, they're probably poltergeists. Let's get, a Wicca crew together and like try and summon them. And then Anya and Xander go, and they, break Buffy and Riley out of their love nest,
which is literally turned into a nest. Why was there a bunch of like overgrowth? What did that have anything to do with what was going on? You don't know either. There were vines and like crawly, reachy, leafy things. I thought someone was going to get attacked by a tree.
I don't know. I don't know. Do you ever think about the taste of words like watcher